This is an era of innocence, as well as an era of barbarism. Wise men and lunatics dance wildly, ideals and delusions coexist. Many years later, some people evaluated it this way. It flourished after imprisonment, disappeared before vanity, was reborn on one hand, and buried on the other. A guy who came back against the current said, "Don't panic, don't panic. Stay steady, one wave in a wave." Novel keywords. Rebirth. My 80s without pop-ups, Rebirth. My 80s TXT complete collection download, Rebirth. My 80s latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Li Jiankun. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1. Li Jiankun, Wanghai County. A small county town in southeastern Zhejiang. In late autumn, the night was chilly, and the cold wind carried the mottled flavor of the old era, blowing thick into the streets and alleys. A twill jacket, a plain cotton jacket, a self-woven sweater, a watery black and white blue, occasionally appearing a touch of military green, that is definitely the top fashion of this year. Compared to the dignity of the people from Qingxi, the rustic old hat from the countryside is much more shabby, mostly dressed in thin clothes, timid and easily recognizable. Now, people on the Red Candle Road are all attracted by an alternative. Wearing a patched thin jacket, with pants tucked down to the calves and no socks, the release shoes symmetrically expose the toes. How can we step out of the step of being unrecognized by our 6 relatives? As he walked past a simulated military green with his hands in his pockets and a 45-degree angle, the other person stared at him intently. Yeah, where's the pride? Hey! Li Jiankun's mouth curved, trying to find a sense of superiority from his buddies. Ah bah! Ask your buddies if they agree to the 10,000 shares of Maotai and Hangzhou 3 houses. Oh, I can't think about it. You said this was just a small drink and a hot bath. Although I have returned to my youth of 18, losing everything I have struggled for many years at once is not easy. Suddenly, he wanted to smoke a cigarette. There's no need to touch the bag anymore, it's almost bald, leaving only a yellow liberation car. The face value is 1 cent. Most children in the future have never seen it, let alone know that there are 3 yuan worth of Jinggangshan, 5,000 yuan worth of yurt, and even 10,000 yuan worth of Zhanda City. But don't underestimate the purchasing power of a penny. You should know that in recent years, working in the commune production team, a strong labor force can earn 10 work points a day, which is only equivalent to 1.5 yuan. What can you buy for a penny? A piece of fruit candy, an envelope, a bicycle valve cover, a pound of vegetables. Gone to see. Of course, buying a pack of economy cigarettes is almost enough. Besides, there are no smoking tickets. In recent years, there is a shortage of resources, and everything needs to be planned and implemented through centralized procurement and sales. Everything cannot be separated from tickets. Eating requires food vouchers, dressing requires cloth vouchers, buying meat requires meat vouchers, taking a shower requires a shower voucher. Digging for feces and grabbing feces also requires a urine voucher. The farmers haven't had it yet. In rural areas, there is no need for grain tickets as they eat a big pot of rice. Every year, the brigade meticulously searches and issues some cloth tickets, line tickets, and match tickets. Other tickets are needed and can only be exchanged. Li Jiankun's ancestors were 3 generations of poor farmers. From the perspective of the main melody, this identity can be extremely glorious, as the poorer, the more glorious. But it's just a mouthful of spiritual food. Ding ling ling, come on, coal truck, keep an eye on yourself and don't get your clothes dirty. Selling newspapers, freshly made newspapers. Guo Yuehua won the men's singles championship at the International Table Tennis Invitational. As I walked along and looked around, I suddenly returned to this era, as if I had entered frames of old film. It was hazy, with few colors, and even the sound had a sense of distortion. Watching this era from TV dramas is completely different from seeing it with one's own eyes. On the streets, stilted buildings and red brick houses are mixed together, and cement is still a luxury industrial product. Most brick houses are built with lime sand. Beside the dilapidated road embankment, wooden poles are uneven and crooked, with overhead wires tangled like spider webs. It's rare to see cars on the road. If there are any, it's just green trucks, and there are no traffic command posts. Instead, there are 3-meter-high security posts erected at the turntable in the center of the county town. The one wearing a white uniform inside is not a navy. Without stopping, Jiankun arrived at the meeting point he had arranged with someone, County Supply and Marketing Corporation. The two of them came out of school today and are planning to find something particularly important. But it mainly depends on the one who has not yet appeared. Jiankun just made soy sauce and guessed that thing had already disappeared from the market. As for what, the big horn outside the Supply and Marketing Cooperative has already solved the mystery. This year, major reforms have been carried out in the enrollment work of higher education institutions. Workers, farmers, educated youth who travel to and from the countryside, demobilized soldiers, cadres, and recent high school graduates who meet the enrollment requirements can voluntarily apply. It is now early November 1977. No news is more important than this. The resumption of the college entrance examination, which had been separated for 10 years, was both exhilarating and hasty, with only over a month left until the exam. But Jiankun, a recent high school graduate, doesn't even have a review material. I squatted under the eaves of the Sioux-style County Supply and Marketing headquarters for about half an hour. My friend finally appeared. A car with a 20.80 bar that is 70% new has neither the carefree riding style of chasing the wind or the coquettishness of a beautiful girl deliberately ringing the bell. The result is obvious. Jiankun, it's gone. My uncle said that there were originally several old books at home, but they were borrowed by someone half a month ago. Jiankun has a disheartened guy by his side. His appearance is largely not because he did not review the materials himself, but because he was unable to get it for Jiankun. He had no intention of taking the exam at all, it was purely instigated by Jiankun. Otherwise, with his father's connections in 2 social media companies, it wouldn't be a problem to take action when the rumors first arose. Didn't Jiankun miss the trip? The young man with a pure and white surname Wang has a non-mainstream name called Shanha. Why do you say that? This name is too big for rural areas. Anything you call river is still acceptable, but it can only represent water. What is the concept of mountains and rivers? That's the country, the world. But obviously, this kid can hold on. Speaking of which, he doesn't believe it. Jiankun has always believed that Wang Shanha has great wisdom, which seems foolish. A person who doesn't argue or grab can have many things or not, but in the end, they have everything. Can you say that such people are not smart? The two of them grew up in the same village from a young age. Later, Wang's father started a social team enterprise, and it was only for the sake of work convenience that the whole family moved to the town. Wang Shanha parked his bicycle and said with a worried expression. Jiankun, to be honest, I still don't believe it. With just our level, even if we get the review materials, we can have a play after just 1 month of hard work. Is that so simple? Jiankun said to himself that if you talk about you, don't bring me along. At least my buddy has been fighting for decades. Speaking of which, if it were a past life, there wouldn't be much ink in my stomach. He wants to learn, but people don't teach him yet. Let's talk about their school. The usual schedule is to read newspapers in the morning, participate in collective labor in the afternoon, and then go to bed when it gets dark. Learn a hammer. Jiankun continued to encourage, this kid really didn't take the exam in his past life, who knows what the result is. Don't you think everyone has this little review time? Let me tell you, the questions won't be too difficult. We need to cultivate talents now, understand? If you dare to take the exam, there will be a play. It's not just easy. In the future era of the Internet, some people shared the 1977 college entrance examination papers from various places, and a pile of people couldn't help but shed tears and lament. Originally, Qingxi was also so approachable, but anyone who asked me to go back. Give your grandmother a leg. Without considering the historical background and educational characteristics, do you look down on your father's generation? Hey, but buddy, he really did come back. Are you saying it's annoying? The keyboard warriors are mostly exhausted, and after analyzing these papers with great effort, the comprehensive evaluation is Science, at the first and second grade of junior high school. Liberal arts, except for mathematics, at the elementary level. Mathematics, this is a dad. Jiankun naturally picked and needed persimmons, preparing to take the humanities exam. With decades of life experience and a deep understanding of the overall environment, he had confidence in language, politics, and history. But he can't handle middle school mathematics. Let me cover my face. Mathematics is a major subject, a full 100 points. I can't afford to throw it away. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The plot suddenly turns bloody. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The plot suddenly turns bloody. What should we do now? It seems like we really can't get the review materials. Cold dishes, listen to the big class. The school has also urgently launched cultural courses, but there are not many teachers who can teach, so they can only adopt the form of listening to big lessons. Wang Shanhe rolled his eyes and said, "Let me hear a loud noise. I can't even squeeze in, okay." The main class is arranged in the school auditorium, which is a relatively spacious red brick and tile house with a square-high platform and no seats below. When there are activities, students bring their own chairs. Nowadays, every time there is a class, students from Xinjiang, as well as migrant workers and educated youth, surround the auditorium with 3 floors inside and 3 floors outside. If you go one step late, you can only stand at the outermost edge of the crowd, step on the back seat of your bike, and look around. What can be seen or heard depends entirely on luck. Jiankun has no good solution to this. Others went to occupy the pit 1 hour in advance, while they went 2 hours in advance. He is familiar with this. The two goods were about to travel back to the mansion when Wang Shanhe asked him to wait for a moment. He rushed into the supply and marketing cooperative, and when he came out, he had 2 extra sesame cakes in his hand and handed over one. Jiankun is not polite to him either. This cake is called authentic, with a large bowl, thick rim of the basket, crispy golden crust baked, and covered with dense black sesame seeds. A light bite reveals the filling, which is too sweet. It is a 5-kernel filling that will cast a shadow on many children in the future. But Jiankun has always been quite fond of it. For the elderly, taste is often not just a taste, but also carries a memory and a thought. It's the beginning of a conversation with children and grandchildren when the whole family reunites. This is still what I ate when I was a child. It wasn't easy to eat it back then. Younger generations often have some interest in this kind of nostalgia, and elders can also gain rare needs and satisfaction from their expectations and questions. Suddenly recalling his children from a previous life, Jiankun felt a heavy heart. But there is no other way. From a biological and statistical perspective, even if he finds his ex-wife again and gets married on the same day, month, and year, the probability of bringing them into the world is still less than 1 in a billion. Whenever there is a difference in diet, whenever there is a wrong posture, whenever there is a slow swimming, there are too many variables. Ding-ling-ling, Wang Shanhe pedaled his bike, carrying Jiankun towards the school. When he left the main road and turned into a small path, he suddenly slammed on the brakes and almost didn't deliver the goods. "What are you doing?" Wang Shanhe didn't pay attention. Feeling puzzled, Jiankun jumped out of the car and looked forward, just in front of a girl wearing a patched blue jacket, with her eyes facing each other. The latter's eyes were instantly flustered. Next to her, there was a young man in Zhongshan suit pushing a big phoenix. Wang Shanhe cursed profusely, showing no face, just like a dog and a man. Li Jiankun only then remembered that he had just been heartbroken. I was once disappointed about it for a long time, which also affected my performance in the college entrance examination later on. Looking back now, the so-called eternal loss of love was just a gradual estrangement from a girl who had a good impression in the green years. Hey, you're quite a big person. Why are you so impulsive? Li Jiankun hugged Lao Wang and said, "Oh no, Xiao Wang, I'm afraid he might make a mistake. After all, this will still be Xiao Wang, let alone a second generation, and a bit of a temper is inevitable." Li Jiankun had already let go of Chen sesame and rotten millet. This matter really needs to be resolved. The two of them are classmates now, looking up but not looking down, which is too embarrassing for everyone. I can't make it. He hugged the enraged Xiao Wang and walked towards him, raising his hands as he prepared to say hello. His eyes suddenly froze and he landed on the left handle of the big phoenix. There hangs a heavy liberation bag. Yo-ho! Stepping through iron shoes, there is no place to find it. Recalling something, Li Jiankun changed his face like a Sichuan opera performer and shouted, "Shanhe, keep an eye on him, dare to move a little, and let me die." Seeing Wang Shanhe pushing his bicycle and pushing the young man in Zhongshan suit against the wall, someone had to stand up. Zhongling begged, "Li Jiankun, can you stop making trouble?" A certain guy, who pinched his thigh flesh a few times and was brewing his emotions, couldn't help but roar, "No, I must break his dog leg today. Jiankun, then I'll take action." "You, wait a moment," Li Jiankun said with a big head. Wang Shanhe didn't say anything. He saw Zhongling's approaching Jiankun and seemed to want to nag. Zhongling's expression was complex, unable to face the other person's eyes, but reason told her that she must face it. She actually thought about speaking clearly to Li Jiankun in person, but couldn't muster the courage to push the situation to a more difficult end. Now, it is unavoidable. After struggling internally, Zhongling stubbornly lifted her head. When she looked at Li Jiankun, he was also looking at her. The latter couldn't help but click twice in his heart, thinking in a foul breath that his friend's vision is authentic. The girl in front of me is tall and tall, with a height of 1.7 meters in a pair of cloth shoes. Even her bulging old coat cannot hide her exquisite figure. Born with a standard melon seed face, with three-dimensional and delicate facial features, and black hair tied at the back of the head in a neat ponytail. It's the ideal type of first love for many young boys, that's right. However, as an old fogey like Li Jiankun, looking at women is not limited to their appearance. Inner beauty is the real beauty. Zhongling said softly, "Li Jiankun, you are good at everything. Is it okay to praise people from the beginning? How can I get angry about this?" Li Jiankun deliberately kept a straight face and ignored it. "It's just that your personality is too impulsive. If you don't change it like this, you will suffer big losses in the future." Li Jiankun gagged his neck and said, "You have to take care of me. I don't know what you did yourself, but you still have the right to teach me a lesson." Zhongling bit the corner of her lips, her eyes filled with a layer of mist. "It's not what you think, I have to do this." "Stop, stop, stop. Don't reveal your feelings so easily." Li Jiankun is a bit distressed. If it were in his past life, he would still not understand. So to this day, he is too clear why Zhongling has moved to another love. 5 minutes ago, he wanted to handle this matter peacefully. To awaken the consciousness of an adult and a reborn individual. Why did you suddenly change your mind? He read the attribute panel of the Zhongshan suit boy. This person's name is Su Qingyu. Wanhai Middle School is a renowned figure who has participated in multiple important activities on behalf of the school and the county. Apart from personal abilities, this is also closely related to family background. Su Qing has a father who is a commissioner in the Haizhou area. At first glance, this official may not seem like a big deal, but he can tell the depth of the matter with just a glance. The so-called Haizhou region refers to 3 cities and 28 counties, including Wanghai County. In a region, the highest official positions are the chief and deputy secretaries of the local party committee, and further down are the administrative commissioners. His mother is a leader of the County Bureau of Culture and Education. The Bureau of Culture and Education, also known as the Education Bureau in the future. No one at Wanghai Middle School may have access to review materials, except for Su Qing. Why did Zhongling suddenly approach him? The answer is about to come out. Su Qing not only has review materials, but also is the student with the highest cultural level at Wanghai Middle School, perhaps not one of them. And Zhongling's family background is not very good. Her grandfather was a wealthy farmer, but fortunately, he also participated in labor back then and did not reach the level of a landlord. Otherwise, whether she could attend high school would have to be debated. Her father has wasted his whole life for this, living in cold eyes, discrimination, and fear all day long. She is eager to change this situation. From this perspective, she does have a compelling reason to do so. Newcomer's new book, Seeking Support. I heard that all new books are worth reading and following. Please chase me to death that, already signed internally, should change status soon. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Breaking through iron shoes and finding no place to find. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Breaking through iron shoes and finding no place to find. Li Jiankun, you have a straightforward personality, many friends, a tall and powerful person, diligent work, and a very attractive appearance. If you say anything more, I'll be in heaven, but it's all true. Li Jiankun remained unmoved, his face full of anger. Isn't this going to cause trouble? Many girls in school actually have a crush on you. Can you let me go? I know it's my fault, I shouldn't provoke you, but now I have to take the college entrance exam, I must. Zhong Lingfen clenched her fist tightly, and her delicate body was filled with an unwavering determination that could not be changed by heaven and earth. Once upon a time, her life could be seen at a glance, growing up in poverty and hardships, reaching marriageable age, marrying someone of the right family, mentoring their children, and facing poverty together, striving to live a good life as much as possible. If that's the case, she at least needs to fight for it and marry someone she likes. Li Jiankun is her crush. However, later on, the college entrance examination resumed. She has confirmed with teachers, school leaders, and community officials more than once that this is a pioneering reform, and the conditions for political review will be relaxed to the greatest extent possible. She also has a chance. She was delighted and encouraged, and her mind gave birth to a completely different path in life. She's going to college. She wants to change her innate destiny. Why was she born to be looked down upon by others? Why can anyone bully her? Why should the fault of her ancestors be attached to her? Unreasonable. Li Jiankun glanced at Su Qingyu and asked, "Are you just getting close to him to get into college?" Zhongling sneered and said, "Otherwise, do you think his family can accept people like me? You really have a heart like a mirror." Li Jiankun could only sigh that this girl's thinking was too advanced, it was simply a heresy in this innocent era. The development of the matter exceeded expectations. Originally, he intended to use a tough attitude to knock out some of Su Qing's review materials. But this matter requires skill, otherwise it is easy to cause big trouble. Isn't this being implemented? 1. Occupy the moral high ground. 2. Strike a punch against the pansy combination. This time, the Lang can't hang up, it's still enough to complete the counterattack. Without offering some compensation, will this matter be better? Who would have thought that Zhongling was not forced at all, but suddenly started playing the emotional card? Guess what? He just ate this trick. It seems that we can only settle for second place. Why are you not clear about it? Why did I let you go? Why can't we be together? Li Jiankun changed his routine and started with a 1-Qi-3 combo. Ha! Zhongling was confused and said, "What does it mean?" Especially the last one, she really didn't understand. Li Jiankun put on a stunned expression and said, "Anyway, you can make me believe it. Then we have to come together. I can't see you getting so close to other guys." This may sound a bit cheesy, but in fact, he has made some trade-offs and there will be no after-effects. Zhongling did indeed get admitted to university as he had hoped, and it is not very clear which school it was, but it is unlikely that it will be the same destination as him. After leaving this small county town and going our separate ways, time and space can naturally consume everything. Always like this. After listening for a while, Zhongling finally thought about it and couldn't believe it. He looked at him and exclaimed in surprise, "Are you also going to take the college entrance exam?" "What do people say? My stepmother raised it. Can't I take the college entrance exam?" Li Jiankun didn't get angry and gave her a white glance. Zhongling gave you a crazy expression and said, "Li Jiankun, don't make a fuss. You can't get into college. I remember the last letter he wrote to me was 417 words in total, with 39 misspellings, which made me laugh and cry." Li Jiankun's heart was amused, but he still hummed, "I tell you, don't look down on people. Maybe I'll do better than you in the exam." Zhongling shook her head and said sternly, "This is not a matter of looking down on you, you. I don't care, that's it." Li Jiankun struck the nail on the head. "My buddy doesn't want to face up, he's afraid of himself." The conversation between the two of them followed with a startled cry from Zhongling, and without further lowering their voices, Wang Shanhe and Su Qing all listened in their ears. Su Qing's face was full of contempt. "If Li Jiankun can get into college, even a sow can climb a tree. I must have looked down upon universities too much, as if I hadn't woken up." But when Li Jiankun walked over, he immediately put aside this disdain and realized that the situation was a bit strange. This gaze is not right, why did it suddenly become kind? Li Jiankun smiled and asked, "Class monitor, where are you and Zhongling going?" Su Qing took a deep breath and chuckled, "Oh, isn't it too crowded and chaotic at school? We're planning to find a quiet place to review." "Your family?" Right. Shanhe and I have the same idea. We don't have a place to go in the county, why don't we go together?" Wang Shanhe's eyes widened and he stood still. "Jiankun. Don't talk." Li Jiankun suddenly returned, and naturally had some inappropriate behavior. He had already taken a preventive shot with Xiao Wang, saying that he fell while taking a shower and landed on the back of his head first. Su Qing has a bitter heart, so let's just say something's wrong. He actually wants to say, "No, but I understand again. If I really do this, I won't be able to get through this hurdle in front of me. But if we bring these two goods back, how can we still guide Zhongling? His own review will also be delayed." In the silence before the storm, Su Qing had an unprecedented desire to survive. Suddenly, he came up with a plan and quickly said, "You two, don't you have any review materials?" Li Jiankun shrugged, is it because his friend is not clearly poor enough? "If possible, would I be willing to come to your house to gather?" It's hard for people to imagine how difficult it is to prepare review materials for this era. At present, the college entrance examination has resumed, like thunder and lightning in 9 days, causing countless young people to be excited and ecstatic. But after calming down, everyone quickly realized a serious problem. The time for reviewing for the exam is short and urgent, but where are the review materials? You should know that there are few and obscure textbooks these days. Take high school as an example, the most professional mathematical, physical, and chemical textbooks are just 2 very thin textbooks. One book is called Industrial Fundamentals, abbreviated as Industrial Fundamentals. One book is called Agricultural Fundamentals, abbreviated as Agricultural Fundamentals. In this special era, it is advocated to combine education with productive labor. After leaving school, middle school students should become workers and farmers. Gongji involves some simple physics, mainly the construction and operation of machines. Nongji is all about fertilizers, pesticides, and other content. Using such textbooks to review and prepare for exams is simply an insult to the intelligence of the examiners. Everyone can only do their best to collect old textbooks from the past. For over a decade, even properly stored books should have turned yellow, let alone in that turbulent era. Some candidates, picking out a torn page from a corner that has been gnawed by a mouse, will hold it in their palm as if it were a treasure, wishing to burn every word with a red soldering iron into their hearts. And more people, on the other hand, suffer from anxiety and illness due to the inability to obtain review materials. Desire. The thirst for knowledge and the desire to change destiny are difficult for later children to empathize with. In this era, there are not so many paths to take, or in other words, reading is the only way out for young people working in fields, factories, workshops, pastures, and mines. This matter is easy to handle, I can help you set it up. Although that's the case. But Su Qing has a pain in his heart that he cannot express. The relationship between Li Jiankun and Zhong Ling, no matter how underground, no one in the class is a fool. This is his fault first, even if they beat him up, it would be a waste. After finishing the fight, I dare not let the school and family know, otherwise God knows what the teacher and family think of him. He has always been an advanced person. Similarly, if things get big, it's the same. At this moment, the focus is on the idea of destroying wealth and eliminating disasters. Seriously. Li Jiankun's tiger body trembled. Guess what? Unexpected joy. Sure enough, sometimes there is a reward for kindness, and one cannot become an emotionless flesh ball. Su Qing said, take it seriously, but. But what? I have to spend money, it's a bit expensive. As you know, the review materials are very scarce now, and there are even 2 vendors on Shanghai's side. Fortunately, I have an aunt who is from Shanghai and has connections. This is the limit that Su Qing can achieve. The relationship belongs to the parents, and they already have review materials. If they continue to work on it, they can only help others buy it, so how can they not charge? I can't tell my parents that I broke into a corner of a classmate's wall, got blocked, panicked, and presented tribute, can I? When it came to money, Wang Shanhe was ready to speak, but when the words reached his lips, Li Jiankun, whose eyes were shining, snatched him first. The review materials that Shanghai brought over, you said, shouldn't be the self-study series of mathematics, physics, and chemistry. Oh, you're quite knowledgeable. Su Qing consciously grabbed the other person's painful foot, retrieved some noodles, slightly raised his chin, and said, that's right. Wang Shanhe was shrouded in clouds and mist, and he bumped into Li Jiankun to inquire about what sets this book apart. Li Jiankun wants to explain, but it's not easy to say too much. This is a set of hooks. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Is still a bit laborious to obtain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 is still a bit laborious to obtain. To be honest, Li Jiankun had never dared to think in this direction before. The self-study series of mathematics, physics, and chemistry was published in 1960, which embodies the wisdom and hard work of many scholars and teachers, including algebra, physics, chemistry, geometry, etc., totaling 17 volumes. It was first published by a publishing house in Shanghai. Due to force majeure, the trading was suspended later. It is said that even the lead plate model used for printing was not retained. The preliminary disclosure of the resumption of the college entrance examination this year has made sharp publishers aware of the importance of this series of books for candidates who urgently need to review materials. So he overcame various difficulties and rushed to seize the time to make things happen one by one. This is a set of professional knowledge and theoretical books, which is not much different from future college entrance examination textbooks. In this era, it is an unparalleled treasure trove of review. Getting this item for exam preparation is like a divine aid. It is said that when it was placed on the shelves of Xinhua bookstore, a spectacular scene of the whole family moving out and queuing up overnight immediately appeared on the other side of Shanghai. This is still a local. It is even more difficult for outsiders to buy it. Wang Shanhe generally understood that this book was worth buying and looked at Su Qingyu, asking, "Is it a bit expensive? Can you give me a price?" This tone. Su Qingyu heard it quite displeased. In fact, what he hates the most is this guy. As a rural person, I have no ideological consciousness at all. Bicycles are changed every year, and they don't bring rice or vegetables to school. They use tickets just like students with commodity grain household registration, wearing straight Zhongshan suits. I really don't know what to stand out for. Is money also worth being proud of? In the Jiangsu and Zhejiang region, where the emperor is far away and the policy is relatively open, they have to leave it elsewhere. His father has been cut off a long time ago. Thinking in his heart, Su Qing was originally unclear about the specific market situation and had to ask the aunt of Shanghai to find out, but he suddenly didn't want to do so. He feels that the opportunity to find the venue has arrived. He could see that every pore of Li Jiankun was saying, "Want." And Wang Shanhe, isn't he rich? Okay, no one cuts it, right? I'll do it. Without any psychological burden, there is even an unwavering sense of mission. Su Qing looked friendly and said, "The price was not set by me. They said they wanted 200 yuan. How much?" Wang Shanhe exclaimed in surprise. "What kind of book is this? It's made of gold paper, how could it be so expensive? What is the concept of 200 yuan? These days, a brand new big phoenix with a half-chain cover costs only 153 yuan. Getting married in the countryside, with a dowry and a grand banquet, is enough to make a fuss for several days. The current average salary for urban workers is around 30 yuan, which is equivalent to 1 yuan per day. The income earned by farmers from working hard all day is less than 2 cents. That is to say, 200 yuan, a town worker who doesn't eat or drink, takes 7 months to save. A farmer who earns wages alone needs 3.5 years. Zhongling's neck wriggled and he struggled to swallow his saliva. Su Qing had an innocent expression on his face and said, "It's a bit expensive. I also think the main reason is that there are rare goods to be found, and there are also 2 vendors speculating. By the way, it's not a book, it's a whole set." So what? Wang Shanhe's face turned red, suspecting that this guy was deliberately deceiving others. When he wanted to argue with him, a voice came from his side. "Okay, let's buy it." Wang Shanhe suddenly turned his head and looked at Li Jiankun in disbelief. So. He agreed. Li Jiankun didn't explain for the time being, but calmly looked at Su Qingyu and said, "Class monitor, please bring the book over as soon as possible. Let's make a noise and bring the money." He deliberately used us, but never thought about asking Xiao Wang to pay for it. Su Qing patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, wrap it around me." Watching Li Jiankun turn his head to look at Zhongling, he immediately added, "My classmate Zhongling and I are just reviewing together." Li Jiankun ignored him and asked Zhongling, "Just reviewing? I'll trust you for now." Zhongling. After Li Jiankun dragged Wang Shanhe away, the girl still hadn't regained her senses. On the way back, the 2 goods didn't ride bicycles and chatted while walking. "Jiankun, what did Zhongling say to you? Didn't he want to beat that guy up? Why did he suddenly change his mind?" She said, "I still like it." "Do you believe it? Comrade Wang Shanhe, are you questioning our brother's charm?" "Okay, let's not talk about this. What about the book, 200 yuan? That kid must be deceiving us, is that how he fooled us?" Li Jiankun explained. Su Qing has this kind of person, with a legitimate reputation. If he were to die, he wouldn't change his mind. Otherwise, wouldn't it prove that he was really deceiving others? The family knows they can beat him to death. Although this money may be quite substantial, have you ever thought about it, compared to our lifelong future? This should be the only opportunity to get access to review materials. Wang Shanhe was convinced. After a moment of silence, I suggested going home in the afternoon. Su Qin said something right, the school is really chaotic. Every day, many migrant workers and educated youth come to school to take classes. It is not allowed to stop them, and they and students must be treated equally. It is called education without discrimination, but in reality, it is the school that encourages them. This leads to complete chaos in campus management. The school does not force students to stay on campus now. If you have a better review environment, you can pat your butt and leave, which can also reduce the pressure on the school. Li Jiankun readily agreed. In fact, he was already eager to go home and see the small dilapidated house in his memory, as well as the mother who had not yet given birth to Huafa. And he. In addition, Li Jiankun is also planning to make money. At present, making money at the city gate is not reliable, or in other words, there are risks involved. At this critical moment, we cannot wade through thunder, otherwise we will have an endless dream of taking the college entrance examination in the future. In terms of speculation, urban management is stricter than rural management. For example, some urban residents take advantage of visiting relatives or using the guise of returning to their hometowns to bring back some peanuts and eggs from the countryside, in small quantities, and put them in small bags with them, thinking they can be unaware of everything. But usually it's all for nothing. On the main road from the countryside to the city, there are always checkpoints, and businesses are not vegetarians. On the contrary, in rural areas, upon closer examination, he could at least think of 3 serious channels for making money. One is the free buying and selling of rural markets. At this time, in rural areas, there were often markets and temple fairs, and farmers were allowed to produce and sell some materials beyond the unified purchase and sales. The problem is that there is only a small piece of self-owned land at home, and if it weren't for tightening clothes and shrinking food, we would need to exchange some living expenses, which would not even be enough to make ends meet. How can there be surplus output to sell? The second type is to include personal activities. There is a saying called 7 mountains, 2 waters, 1 divided field, which refers to the geographical environment of their area. It can be seen from this that grain fields are such scarce resources in the local area that they are not enough to meet the food needs of the people, far from enough. Then we can't starve to death, can we? So the local commune. Anyway, their Shituji commune allows farmers to take on some private work such as construction, breeding, and sowing. The brigade approved and earned back money to buy work points, usually 50 cents for 10 work points. Make a living by doing so. It's not Li Jiankun blowing bubbles, he's an experienced artist, and he could have done it completely. The problem is, he is not a farmer. Although his agricultural household registration is not fake, his current record identity is a high school student at Wanghai Middle School. Do you guess that the commune allows him to take on private work? The third type is to establish community team enterprises. In many rural areas around the Jiangsu and Zhejiang regions, the social team enterprises are still strong in this era. It's okay to talk about being shameless, but it's okay not to talk about qianda. There is too little land to support people. The most successful one is probably Comrade Lu from next door. This was also the foundation for the rise of township enterprises in Jiangsu and Zhejiang, leading the country. But this can only be imagined, it is not a short-term goal that can be achieved, and it does not meet Li Jiankun's demand for immediate money. Hey, the height is a bit depressed. Why can't you post it a few more years later? Li Jiankun waved his head and looked at him with a stern expression, but he still didn't believe it. With memories of being ahead of the times for 40 years, I have been struggling in the business world for half my life and will be knocked down by just a few hundred yuan. Isn't it just a serious person? Come on. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Stone Rock. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Stone Rock. The sky was gray and the clouds hung low, as if a heavy rain was about to fall at any moment. In the fields by the roadside, the crops have already been harvested, and the withered grass is overgrown, creating a desolate and dilapidated scene. However, Jiankun, who is riding a bicycle, has a different feeling. That is a leisurely return of life to tranquility. A gradual precipitation of time. Jiankun, are you tired? Let me ride instead. Jiankun saw sweat on his forehead and smiled, saying, "It's great. Don't grab it. Sitting in the back seat today will freeze me to death." At the age of 18, one's body is different, as if equipped with a motor. Great. Unlike usual when returning home, due to the early departure, it will still be mid-afternoon when it approaches. The view ahead gradually broadens, forming a complex of buildings. Most of them are yellow-brown stilted buildings and tiled houses with white walls, adorned with several flat or two-story red brick houses. This is Shituji town. It is named after the rugged and peculiar rocks surrounding the town, which are abundant in stone materials. The earliest factory in the town was engaged in stone processing. It was an old factory from the 1950s and is still in operation today, with a continuous rumbling sound. Riding his bicycle all the way to the only street in the town, Li Jiandong jumped off at the right time, ready to slap his butt and dodge. He really can't remember which house the Wang family owns. In the mid-1980s, the Wang family moved to the county. Wang Shanhe invited, "Let's go, there must be no one at home. Go to the factory and find some water to drink." Seeing him take the bicycle, Li Jiankun thought about it and followed suit. Riding down 30 miles, I was indeed hungry and thirsty. From the town to his house, I had to walk 7 or 8 miles on the mountain road. The Wang family has established 2 social team enterprises in the town. The old factory used to be an agricultural machinery repair factory for some time, but now its scale is not small, estimated to have around 100 people. If I remember correctly, the new factory was just established after the policy was further expanded last year. It is a small electrical appliance factory that mainly produces electric fans. Industrial ceiling fans, wall fans, and floor fans. Of course, you can do it at home if you insist. In the future, there will be more red brick houses, especially ceiling fans, which have indeed become popular among households. At the beginning of building a house, a J-shaped steel bar will be pre-embedded on the central roof of the main hall. Wang Shanhe brought Li Jiankun to this forward electric appliance factory. There are 2 white plaques hanging at the entrance of the factory courtyard. One is the factory name, and the other has many characters on it, the organizer of the Shituji People's Commune Management Committee in Wanghai County. On the round arched iron frame at the front of the door, there are also 5 big red letters welded. Serving the people. Li Jiankun looked around happily, and the packaging was particularly stable. Entering the factory courtyard, the autumn wind swept through the fallen leaves, leaving no human hair behind. The ears were also quiet, not at all like there were living people. The guy turned his head and asked, "Is buying and selling so difficult?" Wang Shanhe snorted, "With this damn weather, no one can buy an electric fan." "That's not necessarily true," Li Jiankun muttered in his heart. Whether business is good or not depends mainly on the market environment. What is the current market environment? Low productivity, supply less than demand, material shortage. No one buys an electric fan in winter. At least he knows that there are dozens of factories and occupations involved in high-temperature operations. For example, in glass factories, paper mills, textile factories. He once had an experience of inspecting textile factories in January. Oh. That guy, the workshop is like a big steamer, and the girls and daughter-in-law are all short-sleeved, as if going back to summer. Later on, Hongxing had a joke that even the sewing machine caught fire. Based on Li Jiankun's understanding of this era, there is no product that cannot be sold. If it cannot be sold, it can only indicate that the market has not been well developed and customers have not been identified. The two goods walked into a red brick bungalow, and it turned out that there was no one in the factory. It was all cats here, and it was cold outside. The outer room is a connected room, where a group of people gather together. Some play poker, some play chess, and some huddle in a corner to sleep. It's very leisurely. Hey, the mountains and rivers have returned. Jiankun is also here. Everyone greeted with a smile. After all, Li Jiankun was from the Shao family, and his status also rose with the tide. Embarrassingly, although he responded enthusiastically, he actually didn't remember any of these people. Passing through the Tungwu, there was a corridor behind him. Wang Shanhe led the goods into a nearby room, dug out tea leaves, and brewed him a cup of tea. Li Jiankun asked, "So the factory has stopped working now?" After hesitating for a moment, he added, "Actually, even if we continue production and hoard the goods, we will definitely not worry about selling them until next spring. The local area belongs to a subtropical monsoon climate, with more heat and less cold. It is quite warm from March to April every year and only cools down at the end of October. Make an electric fan, there is no problem with the direction, there is a problem." He is also someone who has worked in a factory and understands that stopping work for a day means losing money for a day. In the future, we cannot compare with this year. Even if the factory shuts down in the future, at most basic wages will be paid to employees. How dare you try to lose 1 point these days? There is a sentence in a political textbook that goes like this: "Our country is a socialist country led by the working class and based on the alliance of workers and peasants." And most of these people in the factory have agricultural household registration, and in terms of actual behavior, their current identities are workers. Wang Shanhe said, "My dad really wants to produce it. Isn't it because there isn't enough material? We'll have to wait and stock up on a batch before we can make some." Li Jiankun slapped his forehead and forgot about this matter. After all, the social team enterprise is not biological. Even if it's good for you to do well, do you still want to compete with your own son for resources? Have you ever seen a palm as fast as a lingering shadow? The situation escalated, and the commune couldn't withstand the pressure. Units like Tianjin Electrical Factory, which are actually contracted to individuals, not only do communes not help with resource management or market competition, but they also impose strict regulations. I want the horse to run, and I also want the horse not to eat grass. Extremely difficult. So Wang Dad and Lu Guanxiu, these people, are not only down to earth, but also the first batch of rural entrepreneurs in China, who can be called heroes. But it is obvious that Wang's father has not yet been able to handle this start-up electrical factory with ease. Li Jiankun suddenly realized that there were business opportunities here, right? The biggest challenge for Tianjin Electrical Factory at present is the lack of raw materials. If he could get a batch, wouldn't it be a timely help? What are the issues with requesting a reasonable compensation? Wang's father, Li Jiankun, is also an old acquaintance with exceptional abilities. What raw materials are needed to produce electric fans? Externally, it's nothing more than plastic and iron. The core component inside is the motor, and aluminum or copper, as well as silicon steel sheets and silicon steel sheets, are required to make the stator and rotor. Where are these materials available? This guy has a broad mind. I don't even know how to finish a cup of tea. Old Wang, take a look at the current situation of the factory. Goods can't move, production, fishing for 3 days, drying nets for 2 days, and even the thatched pit is more lively than you. In the office, a guy wearing a blue 4-bag cadre uniform is constantly nagging. Wang Bingquan sat behind the red-painted 5-drawer table, smoking silently. What are you saying? Did he understand? Can he help solve the difficulties? No, he can't do anything, he just shouts. But there's no way, we still have to listen, even if the other party is just a clerk of the Commune Management Committee. Level 27. Old Wang, can I tell you that it's almost the end of the year, and every aspect of the society is waiting for money. How do you plan to achieve the efficiency targets? Wang Bingquan heard something in his words and turned his head to ask, what ideas does Cadre Zhang have? Zhang Weiguo said with great righteousness. I am always thinking for the sake of the community and also sharing your worries. That's right, isn't your goods all stored in the warehouse? The county towel factory said they could order a batch, but in terms of price. The price will not decrease at all. Wang Bingquan interrupted him. The turning point of courage lies here, and the situation of shouting about the factory is just a prelude. If I remember correctly, this uncle is the deputy factory director of the county towel factory, in charge of procurement. Zhang Weiguo angrily said, Hey, why don't you know what's going on? Cadre Zhang, we have an agreement with the community. As long as we pay the full amount and submit it, I have full control over the operation of the factory. This is a matter of principle, and Wang Bingquan will never compromise. He doesn't care about those tricks, but he can't just lower the price if anyone puts pressure on him. The goods can't move now, so they won't worry about selling until next spring. Pop. Zhang Weiguo slapped the table and said, Can you pay the full amount for this year's submission in this factory? Wang Bingquan remained unmoved, closed his eyes, and said calmly, There are still 3 months left until the end of the year to settle the accounts. Outside the door. Wang Shanhe clenched his fists and realized that his father was so difficult, and many things were not as easy as he said. He wouldn't bring this kind of boredom home. Li Jiankun asked, Do you still listen to me? The two of them didn't mean to eavesdrop, they were pulling and pulling, and they ended up here. Li Jiankun said he has a way to make some money. Wang Shanhe said forget it, I'll just ask my dad for it. But when he suddenly heard these things, how could he still open his mouth? Jiankun, you really have a solution. What's the solution? Said Xiao Wang, feeling frustrated. A good way, not only can we make some money, but we can also help your father solve his urgent needs. Wang Shanhe jumped up and said, Really? Who is outside? Okay, it's exposed. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Qingxi Dian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Qingxi Dian. Dad, Jiankun said, I have something to talk to you about. After the two goods entered the door, a smile appeared on Wang Bingquan's face and he handed Zhang Weiguo a look that both parents understood. Li Jiankun looked at the middle-aged man, who was as black as charcoal and could partner with Xiao Wang to play the black and white dual evils, and respectfully said, Uncle Wang. Wang Bingquan smiled and asked, How did you two go back today? Jiankun, why are you looking for me? Li Jiankun glanced at Zhang Weiguo. Wang Bingquan waved his hand and said, It's okay, my own person. Got it, just don't treat him like a person. Uncle Wang, Shanhe told me about the situation of this factory, maybe I can get some materials. What kind of thing? Before Li Jiankun could finish a sentence, he was interrupted by someone. Zhang Weiguo looked at Wang Bingquan with a look of, whose unlucky child is this? Don't be ashamed to speak big. Wang Bingquan didn't get involved and looked at Li Jiankun in surprise. Kid, do you know what materials are needed to make an electric fan? Do you know that these raw materials are all planned supplies? Where are you going to do this? Zhang Weiguo sprayed 3 questions like a cannon, with a caring expression for the intellectually disabled. He can't even get it. Is it embarrassing for Wang Bingquan to ask him about what he has obtained? No face. What kind of onion are you, kid? Li Jiankun didn't hesitate to pay attention to him and continued, Uncle Wang, let me try and there won't be any loss, right? After pondering for a moment, Wang Bingquan suddenly said, Oh, I understand. What do you understand? Li Jiankun was surprised. I don't even understand, okay. There's no plan yet. Saying there's a good way, it's just deceiving the mountains and rivers. Let's talk about it first. If you wait for a foolproof solution to take action on a business opportunity, then don't do it. Do you also want to go to collect waste? Wang Bingquan did not mention being shabby, leaving dignity for his children and dignity for himself. I'll take it, your uncle. I really look down on you guys. At this critical moment, how much time do you have, buddy? The raw materials in the factory were made in this way, and it was only then that Li Jiankun remembered that Lu Guanxiu seemed to have done this before. Uncle Wang, the matter hasn't been resolved yet. Let's not talk about it for now. All I can guarantee is that it won't cause any trouble. If we really get it, you can give us some rewards, okay? It's all easy to say. Whoever dares to give him raw materials now dares to throw them back with money, find someone to collect waste, and still have to pay wages, which is not low. Few people are willing to do this job. The problem is, it doesn't sound like that. So Wang Bingquan can't figure it out anymore. What channels can a half-year-old boy have to get the planned supplies? The background of the Li family is clear to him, and even when he speaks it out, it's frustrating. It's strange. Wang Bingquan scrutinized him and asked, "Are you really confident? At this critical moment, how can we say no? Okay, give it a try." Since the child doesn't want to say much and he doesn't force him, Wang Bingquan can think of it. Someone can help him solve his problems, so what is there to be unhappy about? As the other party said, he didn't lose anything. For children, it is not just a form of exercise. Get it done. I won't discuss the specific remuneration, and I believe Comrade Wang will not mistreat him. Li Jiankun's face was full of joy as he slapped and said, "Uncle Wang, let's give some startup funds first, 50 yuan. Wang Bingquan was stunned for a moment before laughing and cursing, "You kid." After speaking, open the drawer and point out 5 big Unity cards to hand over. After the 2 goods left the office, Zhang Weiguo gloated and said, "Even if you know you've been scammed and can't save face, you still have to give it. Old Wang, you're really good." Wang Bingquan didn't seem to hear his sarcasm, so he lit a big red eagle and looked out the window, spitting out a mouthful of white mist. Let me tell you a story. That was in the year 68, during the dog days of summer. A group of young men carrying adults on their backs went swimming in the river. One of them didn't know how to swim at all, but he had a twisted personality like a girl. He had few playmates and didn't dare to say anything. He darted and darted in the river, reaching deep water. His feet were unstoppable, and he choked on the water with all his might. The other children were so scared that they all ran away. There was only a slightly taller child left, who didn't leave and wasted half of his life. He picked up the small hair that was being grabbed by his hands and feet, and carried it home. Go to the place, kneel down to the parents of the other person, say that the idea was his, and if you want to fight, scold you casually. Oh. Zhang Weiguo understood and said, "The one who betrayed me was the kid from earlier, and the one who drowned was your family's mountains and rivers." Wang Bingquan nodded. "I thought to myself at the time, this kid is a bit wild, but he has a sense of responsibility, and is a trustworthy person. I told Shanhe to be good to him in the future. Guess what? My family, Shanhe, dares to fight now, haha. Are you sick? The child learned to fight, are you so happy? That's it." Wang Bingquan was serious and said, "Those who bring handlebars must have a bit of bloodiness." There are 4 more words, he didn't say. This is just me. Back in the day, when he was as old as Shanhe and Jiankun, people from all over the country were outraged. But later on, his contemporaries are all digging in the soil, except for him who started 2 factories in the town. This man, if you don't mess around, then he's really useless. Cadre Zhang, you haven't been down from the county long and you're not sure yet. This child's family is very poor. I can see it, Zhang Weiguo continued. Coincidentally, he and Shanhe have been in the same class from elementary school to high school. I often give Shanhe more money, and Shanhe is not stingy either. Let's give it to him. He never asks for it, at most he can get some food. Wang Bingquan turned his head and asked, Officer Zhang, do you think such a child would deceive me with money? Zhang Weiguo was choked for a moment before saying, otherwise, what? Believe it, he can get the raw materials. Wang Bingquan didn't directly answer, I believe he has an idea and also wants to put it into action. It's a good thing, my family's mountains and rivers will definitely not dare to do this. Is it important whether it's successful or not? Zhang Weiguo couldn't pick up the stubble and waved his hand, saying. Don't talk about this, get to the point. A yellow road twists and turns, and at the end, a small village nestled in a valley appears. In this territory, poverty is really poor. There is not a decent house in the entire team, a brick house in a pool of water. The so-called clay bricks are made by mixing yellow mud with rice straw. The firmness can be imagined, and if not repaired twice a year, it cannot withstand several years. But it is also really beautiful, with clear mountains and clear waters, fresh air, and a decent name called Qingxi Dian. Li Jiankun walked all the way without any sense of homesickness, only impatience. On the roadside stem, casually set aside some agricultural tools, teapots, and water bowls. Later generations may not have imagined that the word staying indoors at night was not far from them. These days, when things are left outside, there is no fear of losing them. After a few years of contract production, do you believe that someone will secretly harvest your crops in the middle of the night? It's not stealing, cut it well, tie it up, and leave it in the field just waiting for you to pick it back. You want to express your gratitude, no one will admit it. This is called an unnamed hero. At this season, there are still people working in the fields, weeding and plowing, preparing for spring sowing. Although it was arranged by the production team, there was a hint of being too early, and 80% of the time we had to start over, no one felt like we were doing useless work. The spirit of putting collective first, working hard, not afraid of hard work and sweat, and emphasizing dedication has been ingrained in the bones of this generation. Broadly speaking, there are no lazy people these days. If there is, it appears particularly unconventional. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Home. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 7 Home 3 Earthen embryo houses, with a fence yard outside. At the perfect time in the afternoon, before Li Jiankun could approach, he saw a person lying under the eaves. That homemade bamboo lounge chair, covered with a large red thin quilt. Even though Li Jiankun has already done a good job in psychological construction, when we see him again, we must restrain our temper. At this moment, we cannot help but feel angry. Very lazy. Cough. The lazy man didn't sleep to death and squinted his eyes. I saw it, what are you doing today? Li Jiankun still hasn't understood this father until now. I don't know what he thinks, but if you say he's lazy, he will definitely run faster than anyone else in the village who has a happy occasion. Whenever someone shouts. After reading for a few years, it seems that my greatest skill is in this type of thing. As for going to work, it doesn't exist. He never goes down to the ground. He didn't receive any work points from the production team, and naturally didn't receive any year-end dividends. He ignored the bad times at home and calmly led the small amount of food for the head. The lazy man was disturbed by his daydream and decided to sit up. Touch the stool next to you, pick up a handful of tobacco leaves from a rusty iron box, take a cut arithmetic book, and skillfully roll it up. Just as I was about to draw a match, my eyes suddenly turned black. The cigarette that reached the mouth was taken away by someone, thrown on the ground, and ground into powder with the sole of the shoe. The lazy man was stunned, stared, opened his mouth, and couldn't speak for a while. Stinky kid, you want to turn things around. Li Jiankun ignored and grabbed the rusty iron box. How dare you? Someone proved his courage through practical actions. Rushing out of the fence yard, he threw the tobacco leaves, cut paper, and iron box into his own pit with a thud. Shit splattered everywhere. Take some air out. A few years before returning, he left with lung cancer. When Li Jiankun returned to the courtyard, the lazy man had already climbed up from the bamboo chair, clutching a pair of tongs in his hand, with a look of, "I'll beat you to death. I have no choice but to beat my son." Li Jiankun, who was also single, walked over and struck a pestle in front of him. The meaning is to kill or cut at will. But this action startled the lazy man. He didn't expect the little brat to have this kind of self-awareness, thinking he was going against him. Dare not act recklessly. A lazy man is a small stature, just over 1.7 meters tall, with a lean physique. Due to long-term lack of exercise, he looks like he can collapse in a gust of wind. My son follows his mother. Li Jiankun is 183 meters tall, not quite strong, but he works hard every day and still has some muscles. If we really want to do it, it's basically one move in seconds. The lazy man hesitated and didn't have the ability to make ancestral graves smoke when scolding in the countryside. His mouth closed and in the end, he only held back one word. Get lost. Sitting back on the bamboo chair, he muttered, "You dare to argue with me before your wings are hard, you little brat doesn't talk about filial piety, and, you deserve to be struck by lightning." Li Jiankun walked into the room, holding a smile. His father is a very practical person. If he thinks you are more capable than him, then he doesn't care. He's a bit timid, like his older brother. After returning from military service, he transferred to the security department of the county monosodium glutamate factory and is now a serious working class. However, speaking of which, Li Jiankun is also quite timid, especially at this age. He often gives you a set of military martial arts. Do you think tigers are not tigers? In the eyes of the lazy man, it was obvious that his youngest son couldn't be considered a scallion, and this wave was a bit troublesome. The ancestral house is still the same as in memory. Poor, dilapidated, and shady. However, being among them, there is a sense of peace of mind that has been lost for a long time. This place carries almost all of Li Jiankun's childhood memories. I took the wrong medicine, what's wrong with me? Pour a glass of water. The lazy man tries to regain face and dignity as the head of the family. There is no one else in the room, so you don't have to ask to know that you have gone to work. Li Jiankun took an enamel jar and poured out a cup of plain water. The lazy man looked at the sky with a slanted gaze, whether he liked to take it or not. Can't I cure you with the small sample? Counting birds, he installed them. In Li Jiankun's impression, the most impressive thing his father has done is to give each of his 4 siblings a decent name. In rural areas, it can even be a bit stunning. His elder brother's name is Li Jianxuan. His second sister's name is Li Yunsheng. His little sister's name is Li Yunmeng. The lazy man is said to have bought several books with tears in his eyes to choose these names, but they have all been flipped through. Do you think he suddenly became diligent? No. The crux is that he has a deep prejudice against his own name. Li Jiankun's grandfather didn't know what he was thinking at the beginning, so he gave his youngest son a name, surnamed Li, nonsense. My name is Guifei. Big brother Li Jianxuan currently lives in the factory and has a conversation partner who doesn't come back often. This guy was able to monopolize a bedroom, lay on a wooden bed for a while, and unconsciously fell asleep. In a daze, someone pushed him and opened his sleepy eyes. A plump oval face caught the eye. The girl is not fat, and her flesh is just right. In rural terms, she is an excellent type of breeding. Do you believe that the skin takes away the essence of heaven and earth, and can't be tanned? My face was always pink, like 2 red apples. Clouds think of clothes, flowers think of faces. Sister. Li Jiankun stood up in an instant, full of energy. When I was young, my second sister was really beautiful. Her lips were not pointed but red, and her eyebrows were not drawn but dark. It was the kind of fresh and natural beauty that went deep into my bones, completely different from the seductive and cheap people who would fill the streets in the future. Li Yinsheng squatted by the bed, blinking his big eyes and smiling. Look, what's going on? I saw her holding several black bird eggs in her hand, cooked. Originally, she had visited before and found that her younger brother had gone to pick up the nest of bird eggs that she had been thinking about for a few days after returning from school, causing trouble. Sure enough, she was the second sister who loved her the most. Li Jiankun's heart was warm and he wondered, the tree you climbed. He doesn't believe it, it would be more like a little monkey from his family. Li Yinsheng shook his head and said, no problem, I need someone to help me. Li Jiankun squinted and said, who? Li Yinsheng didn't understand why he cared about this, and his face became increasingly rosy, stumbling and refusing to say anything. It's Lu Shimao from the neighboring brigade, right? Sister, you're not allowed to interact with him in the future, otherwise don't blame me for getting angry. Why? Because you deserve a better husband, even if you want to marry Fei Xiang in this life, I will help you achieve your wish. He's not a good person. I'll talk to you about this later. Anyway, you remember what I said. Someone entered the room, and the lazy Guifei approached his daughter. Shang'er, give me 2. Dad. Li Yinsheng pouted with displeasure. You don't know what kind of hardship my younger brother has endured at school. Are you still trying to grab it? But after all, his arms couldn't withstand his thighs. The lazy guy Guifei picked up 3 bird eggs and returned triumphantly. At dusk. Suddenly, the village was filled with flying chickens and dogs, which undoubtedly marked the return of the divine beasts. Guifei, the lazy man, sat in the courtyard eagerly waiting for a while. After seeing a little yellow hair, he quickly waved and said, Menger, hurry. A moment later, in the small fenced courtyard at dusk, a scene of father's kindness and daughter's filial piety appeared. Guifei Lazy Yuze sat on the lounge chair, with Xiao Wangmiao squatting beside him, nibbling on bird eggs with one hand and pounding his legs with the other. It's better to have a dream at home. Those 3, are all white-eyed wolves. Xiao Wangmiao grinned and was silly. But who would have thought that this girl, who was as thin as a monkey, with a disheveled face, and would be thought to be of mixed race in Central and Africa in the future, almost made dream of the Red Chamber. If Li Yinsheng is naturally beautiful, so Li Yunmeng is. A baby looks like a year old. Don't think she's really so well behaved, it depends on who's right. Apart from her good father, no one can control her pulse. At the age of 9, this is a product that is not in the plan. I went to the village and was given a nickname, Dog's Worry. Li Jiankun hasn't returned for a few days. He sat on the doorstep and watched her for a while. Did you see her bird pass by? End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Line heading. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 line heading. A sound of cursing came, and Li Jiankun stood up and looked out of the courtyard, his eyes blinking without blinking. The words are not pleasing to the ear. In terms of swearing, his mother ranks second in the brigade, and no one dares to say first. However, this woman with a net height of 172 and a slightly tiger-like appearance is actually a delicate person. This look is all forced out. It's called an attack form. Earlier, when she first married, everyone in the team dared to arrange the name of Li Guifei. In earlier years, the characters Li Guifei and the lazy man were directly equated, and not to mention the brigade, no one was welcomed in the commune. In earlier years, whenever there was a happy event in the brigade, Li Guifei would always act like a clown. Now, who dares to bully my man? Give it a try. Oh. Immediately enter the attack mode, and the gods and ghosts retreat. Li Jiankun has always known that his mother Hu Yueying loved his father to the bone, and he never understood why before. It wasn't until a long time later that he finally understood. As a rural woman who has not read a book for a whole day, working at sunrise and resting at sunset every day, marrying a cultured man is already a kind of lofty ambition. And only this man. In her lifeless youth, she was given the joy and warmth of love. Early morning. When fish belly turned white on the horizon, the village, which had been silent all night, regained its vitality. At this time in rural areas, alarm clocks, even if given away for free, are mostly just a decoration when taken home. The village loudspeaker is broadcasting a divine song that, at first glance, is particularly beautiful but actually inspiring and brainwashing, Nanawan. The production captains of each team went door to door and started honking their horns. Jiankun and his team's production team leader, Li Revolutionary, is a ruthless person who not only keeps chattering, but also carries a broken gong in his hand. Swimming outside his house, he stopped shouting, but the gong would always strike twice more to show his strong dissatisfaction with the lazy Guifei. Guifei, lazy man, supported by his wife and son, didn't hesitate and made up a rhyme for him. Li Revolution, really impressive, one person with 2 urea pants, there are black and blue ones, which means there are no members. Widely disseminated. At this time, there is a shortage of supplies, and people tend to dye imported urea bags into pants to wear. Standing in the fields, facing the wind, it's really impressive. I suddenly feel superior. Kuener, I went to work with your sister, and the rice was hot in the pot. A voice came from outside the door, and Li Jiankun quickly responded, thinking there was no further conversation. The half-closed wooden door was pushed open, and Hu Yueying, who was holding a sickle, poked her head in and smiled at her son, leave a bowl for your dad. She also knows that both sons do not like their father, who is not a good person, but she always hopes for family harmony and is really afraid that her husband will be hungry. Li Jiankun said helplessly, I understand. Xiaomeng, hurry up. I've agreed, and I'll send you to 22 Dan. Don't think I don't know. The dogs in the village are all afraid of you. Who are you afraid of? Second sister is beautiful and has a clear heart. 22 Dan is the name of a field, referring to its yield, which is often used in rural areas to name grain fields. Li Jiankun smiled knowingly. The house suddenly quieted down, and he didn't feel much drowsiness. He flipped over and got up. The matter of making money must be taken immediately, and there is no time to waste. Last night, he calculated that scrap is indeed a breakthrough point. He already has a goal where to start. Before that, we need to meet old Wang for a while and get some nearby items. The lazy Guifei slept soundly, his small snores were even and long, and the gong of Li Revolution's attack was deteriorating. The pot is hot and said to be rice, but in fact it is a little old rice porridge with little water. Li Jiankun couldn't blame his mother for not being able to fill his stomach. He knew that what he did last night was already the limit that his mother could manage. As the end of the year approaches, there is always not enough rice at home to eat, so we can only tighten our belts and endure until the production team pays the bill, hoping to earn a few living expenses to buy and sell grain. But usually the situation is not ideal. Second sister is not a mother after all, she can't do 10 work points a day. Their breakfast is the same, and they have to work hard all morning. Li Jiankun grated a bowl of rice soup, gulped it down in one breath, and wiped his mouth hard. From today on, he will make the whole family eat and dress warmly. Stepping on the morning dew. Li Jiankun arrived at Shituji town without stopping. I went to Tianjin Electric Appliance Factory and luckily saw Wang Bingquan at Xianyang Agricultural Machinery Repair Factory, which took me an hour to catch my eye. During this process, we also indirectly identified the address of the Wang family from the workers. At the west end of the town, there are 2 red brick houses on the first floor, occupying only a few dozen square meters, which is very low. Key. Jiankun is here, have you finished eating? Do you want to add more? Shanha's mother's name is Li Lan. If we really count on our ancestors, we can still establish some kinship with Li Jiankun. I have known each other since childhood. Just now, Li Lan is no longer like a rural woman. She knows how to dress and has a touch of luxury on her body. This ant is not a fuel-efficient lamp. In the 1980s, she lost tens of thousands while playing cards. A number from her own son, rumored to be only 20,000 to 30,000. Almost did not allow comrade Lao Wang to return to before the liberation. Li Jiankun said he had eaten it, and after supporting her, he touched Xiao Wang's room and saw him with a lascivious smile in his sleep, so he offered a cold hug. Ah! Li, be a person, get out of here, things are in your pockets, take them yourself. Wang Shanhe howled in sorrow. He has a habit of sleeping naked. Li Jiankun finally let him go and pulled out a few tickets from his green pants draped over the bed. Xiao Wang huddled under the covers, only half of his head exposed, like a humiliated daughter. In law. Why do you want these tickets? I'll tell you when it's done. Li Jiankun chuckled and said, I use a bicycle. No matter how the plan is implemented, a good outfit is essential, and he considered it yesterday. Identity is a good thing, even if it is decorated. For example, in the future, girls will talk to poor people about dowries, ordinary wealthy people about relationships, and wealthy people not to talk about anything, self-dedication. As a result, the A-goods market and luxury car rental have become unprecedentedly prosperous. You taste, you savor. In this era, not everyone judges people by their appearance. But everyone's attitude of rejecting and discussing business with people who are not at the same level is generally the same. Riding the 2 or 8 bars, Li Jiankun arrived at the county all the way. Time was just right, and he headed straight to the only department store in the county. Well, it's just a Soviet-style bungalow. This year is a bit good, don't worry about being slaughtered. In national brand stores, everything is clearly priced. In the same region, it's not that everything is the same, but it's absolutely the same. When I came out of the mall, I was completely new from head to toe. A set of blue Zhongshan suit, made of cotton fiber material, with a thickened inner lining, priced at 42 yuan and 8 yuan, plus a 7-foot cloth ticket. A pair of small white shoes, also known as white mesh shoes, size 43, 3.76 yuan, plus a shoe ticket. Having a big foot is quite a disadvantage. He looked at it and found that the smallest size is 38, which is only 2.6 yuan. But he originally wanted to buy back the power, but when he asked about the price, good guy. Luxury brands, we can't afford them. This outfit is in place, and it matches the appearance of this product quite well, with a temperament that does not belong to this era. Strolling on the bustling streets of the morning market, it attracted more than one girl's youthful heart. Li Jiankun managed to inhale without stopping, humming a small tune that no one understood along the way. I am still the same boy as before, without any change. He too. Stinky and shameless. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Unfortunate graduation and risk of myocardial infarction. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Unfortunate graduation and risk of myocardial infarction. Regardless of the era, collecting junk always gives people a sense of inferiority. Even when these 4 words are spoken, they themselves carry a sense of contempt. But just as people nowadays wouldn't believe, the ragged kings will become one of the first groups in this country to become rich. Later generations, most of them were also unaware that collecting garbage these days was an iron rice bowl job. These types of garbage collectors have a formal establishment, full medical insurance, work 8 hours a day, no need to cross the streets, and have a fixed place to work. There is such a rundown nest near Wanghai Middle School. Of course, no one would call it that in person, as it would trigger class struggle. The official title is Wanghai County Waste Recycling Station, Shuangqiao Road Recycling Point. There is a plaque on it. Usually there are 2 employees here, but when Li Jiankun comes over, he only sees one uncle. This is best. The mentality of professionals is to keep their mouths shut when they have colleagues nearby. Zhao Hongqi looked at the young man in front of him, stood up, took the cigarette he handed him with both hands, and speculated which cadre's son this was. When it comes to the children raised by these high-performing families, they are different. Look at this mental state, this temperament, it looks even more stylish than their yellow station chief. Zhao Hongqi put his cigarette in his pocket and couldn't bear to smoke it. Tisk, it's a 35-cent Westlake brand. He has smoked the best cigarette ever, which is only a 22-cent flag drum. Last time his nephew got married, he got a pack and saved smoking for a week. But he didn't understand why this person was getting close to him. He only had a free lunch bag on his bike and didn't sell scrap. Uncle, may I ask you something? Have you ever encountered old items while collecting waste every day? Li Jiankun started with a topic and didn't rush to the county waste station, intending to first understand the situation. Old objects. Zhao Hongqi murmured, asking why is this? How old is it? This. There are also some, right? Well, a few days ago, an old lady came over with a big bowl and saw that it was a beautiful one. She painted blue flowers and said they were passed down from her ancestors. Harm, what do we need that thing for? It can't be melted or refined. Blue flowers. Grandmother's ancestors passed it down. A big bowl. The sleeping trough shouldn't be blue and white porcelain, right? There are no antique scammers these days. Li Jiankun's heart suddenly quickened and he casually asked. Uncle, where does the old man live? Do you know him? Zhao Hongqi shook his head and said, I don't know, as soon as I come back. This guy is heartbroken and feels like he missed out on 1 billion yuan, and even more so, he feels extremely frustrated that he can't pick up any leaks. Why are you asking this? It's really, I owe it. Then, let's continue. Continuing on this topic, the two chatted and handed over a cigarette before Li Jiankun changed his tone. By the way, is your webmaster surnamed Li? No, my surname is Huang. Uncle, what do you think of Director Huang? Li Jiankun said with a smile. Zhao Hongqi suddenly became alert. What, how is it? Uncle, don't be nervous. I'll just ask. To be honest, I have something I want to ask him for help with. I don't want to inquire with you about whether he is good at speaking, whether he smokes, drinks, or accepts gifts. No, absolutely no. Zhao Hongqi looked as if I had sworn to heaven and said, our station chief Huang is honest and upright. There are not many good officials like him in the county. Too excited. So much so that words don't even go through the brain. Can people within the system speak like this? If something goes wrong, there will always be demons. Then Li Jiankun will understand. It's pretty good. This business is not daring, and people who are too upright are really unable to negotiate. Uncle, you're busy. Oh, please take your time. Although it is a public institution, the conditions of the county waste recycling station are not considered good. There is a courtyard door. As I walked in, the first thing that caught my eye were 2 large sheds, which were very high and supported by iron pillars. They were covered with oilcloth and couldn't provide shade in summer or wind in winter. The shed is filled with scrap copper, iron, plastic, nylon, and discarded books and newspapers. Most people probably wouldn't take a second look, but Li Jiankun's eyes lit up, and I believe the same goes for old Wang. The only building is a row of tiled houses painted with white paint, just like Qingxi village, with few bells under the eaves. This product uses Westlake brand cigarettes to clear the way, and with this outfit, it is said to be looking for Mr. Huang, but surprisingly, it is unobstructed. Of course, this is a bit anxious about his appearance. At first glance, he may be in his early 20s, which is also related. In a nutshell, like a person in charge of affairs. This yellow webmaster gives people a first glance feeling, like a bug. Why? He has a big belly. These days, the proportion of overweight people in our country is on par with that of giant pandas. Everyone wants to be overweight, but it looks so impressive. A cadre's belly is a desirable symbol of body shape, like the waistline in the future. But many people eat with sea bowls, they just can't gain weight. Are you saying it's annoying? Li Jiankun felt that the difficulty of this matter was infinitely reduced. Although the chief of the yellow station may not be big, he is definitely above level 20. However, in recent years, as a public institution with a unique nature in the county, the energy of the person in charge cannot be underestimated. Anyway, he knows that the superior unit of the county waste recycling station is definitely not in the county. What does this mean? In addition, information blockage, due to the historical background, there is a keen interest in cultivating personal soldiers, and other factors. Director Huang wants to let a little slip through his fingers, in Cantonese, sprinkle some water. Seeing this, Li Jiankun no longer showed hospitality. After entering the office, I casually closed the door and sat down on the wooden sofa against the wall. I took out a cigarette, lit it on my own, and crossed my legs. Huang Tao looked at the unwelcome guest in surprise and hesitated to speak. This person, although not very old, has an extraordinary demeanor and is somewhat uncertain about his future. He asked in confusion, "Are you?" "My surname is Li." Li Jiankun spat out a mouthful of white mist, with a gentle smile and a hint of arrogance. The Li surname is a major surname in Wanghai County, and among the high-ranking officials in the county, one can imagine how many Li surnames there are. Guess what? Huang Tao did indeed show a pensive expression, not knowing if he was right or wrong. After a moment, he asked, "What do you have to do?" When it comes to this matter, Li Jiankun can completely continue down the path of being a second-generation official, feeling that his success rate is higher. But after weighing, I still gave up. There is a risk. If exposed, it's equivalent to fraud. That yellow webmaster wants to mess with him, just do it right. Fortunately, since it is confirmed to be a worm, it is not difficult to deal with. I'm here to talk to you about improving the conditions on the website. Going through the back door also requires skill. If you just open your mouth and say, "I'm here to talk to you about business," even the biggest bug will be afraid. Those who are willing to bite are smart people, fools are not boring. This kind of opening statement, clearly stating the purpose without breaking it down, without being rejected, can proceed gradually. There's a door. Li Jiankun felt happy in his heart. He talked around the twists and turns, and Huang Tao understood and asked his identity again. This is not important. Give people a sense of mystery. Huang Tao was conflicted for a while. After biting his teeth, he lowered his voice and asked, "It's easy to talk about scrap iron, but for copper, there's too much to deal with. How much do you want, how much do you calculate?" Li Jiankun waved his hand and said, "It's within your convenience. Just make a batch and the price is negotiable. What I'm doing is to make a profit with my heart. Isn't it urgent to wait for the money? Returning to this year, I am still focused on making money through this method, but it is not very profitable." The two of them were trapped in a trap, and Huang Tao nodded in satisfaction. "Okay, why don't you sit down for a while? I'll take a look at how many goods we have and see how much we can produce. We'll discuss more when we come back. Please. Things are even smoother than imagined." Li Jiankun poured himself a cup of tea and sat leisurely on the wooden sofa, humming a tune. About 15 minutes later, there was noise coming from outside the door. "But, it doesn't sound right, why are you still running around?" An ominous premonition permeated my heart. The door pushed open. "Hush." Li Jiankun was startled and almost missed a breath. There are not only Huang, the webmaster, but also two people following behind. Big brimmed hats. Business inspection team. Your grandmother's legs are so bold. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Opportunities for the Eye Thief. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Opportunities for the Eye Thief. People are becoming increasingly lawless nowadays. Such blatant speculation is the first time I've seen them. I don't care who you are, I went all out today. Huang Tao was furious and a bit unstable. Hurry up to the desk, open the drawer, take out a few medicine bottles, shake and groan, and swallow one after another. Li Jiankun's eyes widened. Are you really a blue sky? Uncle Zhao is not deceiving me. Daring to have a big belly like this, have you taken too much medicine? Don't move. Be honest. The goods had just stood up and didn't have time to react, so they were caught by the inspectors on both sides. After failing to succeed in his apprenticeship, he was captured instead, causing tears to fill the eyes of his younger generation. I made a mistake. What he should have thought of was, if the road to the county waste station was so easy to get through, how could old Wang end up here? He immediately reflected on himself, feeling too proud and conceited, completely disregarding the people of this era. The retribution comes so quickly. With Li Jiankun's stability like an old dog, will he take risks at this critical moment? No. That's impossible. Stop, 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 stop. His hand was not loose, and an inspector touched his chest pocket for him. 2 sheets of writing paper, 1 yellowed paper card. The inspectors spread out one by one, looked around, and Huang Tao immediately leaned in. This. I said, Lao Huang, you're teasing us. Mr. Huang, this joke is quite serious. Huang Tao looked as if he had eaten a green-headed fly and quickly apologized to the two of them, taking out a bag of 1.3 yuan of the Great Red Eagle. Passed the cigarette over, but the person hasn't picked it up yet. Who doesn't have a temper? It all depends on him being a webmaster. False reporting of enemy information, playing tricks on inspectors. Why don't you try someone else? Huang Tao was in a hurry to explain for a while, but the expressions on the faces of the two gentlemen were more attractive. Let's not do it again. Definitely. Huang Tao almost nodded and bowed, sending someone off with a good voice and anger. When he wiped his voice and came back, there was a thunderous sound on the ground, and the eardrums of a certain product almost didn't crack. Pretending, why didn't you say it earlier? Li Jiankun smiled bitterly and said, you didn't ask either. We never said it was the second generation, it was all your own brainpower. I thought it was a worm, who gave it away instead of giving it away. 2 pieces of writing paper were placed on the table, one of which was a certification letter from Tianjin Electric Appliance Factory, proving that he was a member of the factory. A red-lettered head. It was a letter of introduction from Shituji Commune that Li Jiankun forced Comrade Lao Wang. The approximate content is, that's right, this product belongs to our commune and is shining for the collective cause. Please give face to each unit and don't treat it as a bad person. Otherwise, why did you think he spent an hour with Lao Wang in the early morning? Wait for the poke. That yellowed paper card is his membership card. I don't have an ID card these days, so how to prove that you depends on this thing. It's really not possible. Xiao Wang's liberation bag contains not only his tattered clothes and shoes, but also a household registration book. All 3 certificates are complete, plus 1 book. Iron egg-like. I can only say that I do not follow the rules, but I cannot say that I have committed a crime. So, Mr. Huang, what do you think about this? Li Jiankun still holds a bit of a lucky mentality. Can business people have face? If we have a face and a body that cannot be lost, even if we become a person, what we want to earn is called face, we need someone else to give us. Two different things. I have never seen such a shameless person before. Huang Tao's nose was almost crooked and he said, "Get out of here. We don't give our goods to the community team enterprise, where did we get from? That's it, I offended you miserably." After being blasted out, Li Jiankun summarized his lesson, calculated other battles, and never lost heart due to a single defeat. He pushed his bike and didn't walk far, only to find that Station Master Huang also ran out with him. Shouldn't I change my mind? This brain hole, only this guy dares to think. These days, people are quite shameful. There are no birds or humans, so he quickly walked towards the scrap shed where a green leather liberation car was parked. Just arrived, not before. Li Jiankun stopped and looked around, only to see Station Chief Huang attentively handing a cigarette to a person next to the car, accompanied by a smiling face. His attitude was even worse than that of the two previous masters, even his grandson. Alas, officials who are as big as sesame seeds have no choice but to jump out of their own 1 acre or 3 fen of land. Old Huang is not easy either. He noticed something suspicious. The words, Wanghai County Transportation Company, are printed on the car door of Jifang. Hey, big brother, let me ask who that person is. I think Webmaster Huang is quite respected. Li Jiankun pushed the cart forward and stopped a passing worker. The other person looked in the direction of his finger and said, "Oh, he, from the transportation company, seems to have the surname Sun." "Oh, what position is it?" "Position? No, just a driver." "That's a problem. Old Huang Gao Gao is a leader, how could he flatter an ordinary driver so much?" Li Jiankun asked his doubts and promptly handed over a cigarette. The other person glanced at the cigarette box and his eyes lit up. "No need, I won't smoke for now." The dirty worker felt like this handsome and glamorous young man had a special ability to not only smoke but also light a fire. "What you know, how can you still hold on to it? This matter is essentially not complicated. The direct superior of the county waste station is the city waste station. Purchasing and hoarding waste often requires transportation tools. I also have 2 tractors at home. But firstly, it cannot meet the demand, and secondly, running around the county is still acceptable, making long-distance transportation extremely difficult. That can only be done through cooperation with transportation companies. Li Jiankun can fully associate it, but this cannot explain the current situation. Why don't you give him money too? Why are you holding on to him like this? The key is that even if we give money, they won't want to pull it. We waste goods workers may sound like good brothers of the working class, but in reality, not many people look up to it. People think waste is dirty and even waste cars, and they don't like to see us. It used to be fine. The webmaster found work from above and was able to work together without getting used to them. I can't do it now. If you don't confess, even humans and birds won't harm you. Li Jiankun was puzzled and said, "Why is this? The car is almost running out of gas, why do you think?" The person felt a bit proud and said, "Oh, their lives are not easy either. They're not as good as us. No oil." Li Jiankun blinked and suddenly realized. In the 1970s, the crude oil market was a source of internal and external troubles. Externally, due to war factors, 2 oil crises broke out, namely in 1973 and 78, which is next year. He has played with crude oil futures and learned about this crazy history. After 2 oil crises, global crude oil prices increased by about 32 times from $1.20 per barrel in early 1970 to nearly $40 per barrel by the end of 1979. Even if it's not as terrifying, there will definitely be more than 10 times. Internally, after decades of arduous struggle, the petroleum industry has made tremendous contributions to China's livelihood and economy. The slogan, "Learn from Daqing in industry," proposed in 64 years is still widely spread and inspiring today. But by the late 1970s, it encountered bottlenecks. Due to serious insufficient exploration funds, insufficient reserve growth compared to production consumption, and accelerated decline in old oil field production, crude oil production has shown a downward trend. For this country that urgently needs to develop its economy and generate income and foreign exchange, this is a fatal matter. It is precisely against this background that the Grand Oil Contract of 1981 emerged. End of this chapter.